When most people start a job, they believe that the workplace is built around teamwork, professionalism, and merit. The assumption is simple. You work hard, you do a good job, and people around you will respect you for it. In theory, that's how it's supposed to work. But in reality, every workplace has an invisible social hierarchy operating beneath the surface. As you will notice, most people are not just doing their jobs. They're constantly comparing themselves to other people. Everyone is always checking around to see who's getting praised, who's getting promoted, who's always getting the boss's attention, and who seems to be moving ahead. The uncomfortable truth is that your success doesn't exist in a vacuum. Every time you succeed, someone else feels that they're falling behind. That's why many people pay far more attention to your mistakes than your accomplishments. And once you understand that, everything about human behavior in the workplace starts to make sense. So let's talk about why success makes you a target. Have you ever been in a situation and noticed the smirk on your coworkers' faces when you're struggling, when you're falling behind, like they seem to be enjoying your downfall? The reason for that is because you're shining just a little too bright, buddy. You're outperforming everyone with your excellence, which in turn is creating an ugly comparison. When you are producing results, solving problems, or earning recognition from management, you unintentionally become a measuring stick. What you are essentially doing is placing your coworkers in a position where they feel pressure to work harder than before in order to protect their status, their reputation, or the position within the organization. So just imagine yourself in this situation. You've been working a job for months or even years, doing the bare minimum, just enough to satisfy management, keep your position, collect your paycheck, and then just go home. Then a newly hired rando comes in and starts doing far more work than what's required. Suddenly, you feel like you have to work more harder now just to keep the same job. So rather trying to improve themselves and compete with you, the easier path is just to focus on your mistake that you've made and make it be known. When your flaws become known and everyone sees that you're not all that great and that you actually suck, what this does is that it levels the playing field for everyone. So you want to be careful when you're in this kind of situation. It's important to develop not only the skills needed to succeed, but also the ability to succeed in a way that doesn't jeopardize other people's position, ambitions, and interests. Another thing that we're going to talk about is that the workplace runs on perception. The mistake you make when you start working a job is thinking that high performance alone determines success, and not realizing that perception matters as much, if not more. Everyone in the workplace is trying to manage their image just as much as they're trying to manage their workload. They're also paying attention to how others view them, who's leveling up, and who's going to have access to promotion and leadership roles. That's why a small mistake can sometimes take a life on its own, and all the work, effort, and sacrifice that you did before the mistake won't be accounted for. Imagine you've been grinding it out for weeks, months, and even years, and everyone knows that you're the kind of person who regularly stays late when projects fall behind. You take up some of the workload when coworkers are overwhelmed, and you rarely complain and consistently get your work done. One day, however, for whatever reason, you're exhausted. Maybe you had a rough night, maybe you didn't sleep properly and you're not feeling well, and perhaps you just need a little mental break. During a slow period at work, you sit down for just a few minutes to check your phone. Unfortunately, that's the exact moment your manager walks by. The next day, a coworker of yours, who probably hates your guts and enjoys seeing you getting in trouble with management, says, "I saw him sitting around yesterday while everyone else was working." A few days later, you take a 15-minute break, but ended up coming back 10 minutes late because you lost track of time. Maybe you were eating a meal or having an important conversation with your partner, or whatever the reason is. For the most part, it wasn't a major issue. You get back to work and finish everything you were supposed to do. But unfortunately, that's the moment people notice. And what's even worse is that one of your coworkers may have gone to management and said, "I saw him take an extra long break yesterday." Soon, the lazy label gets attached to you, and all your months and years of grinding it out and contributing to the company are ignored. What's frustrating is that your reputation wasn't built on your overall performance. It was built on a handful of visible moments that people used to create a story about you. And once that story exists, many people stop looking at what you actually do and start looking for evidence that confirms what they already believe. Just a few incidents like that can outweigh months of hard work and leave somebody carrying the lazy employee label long after it stops reflecting reality. When it comes to dealing with colleagues in your workplace, keep in mind that admiration and envy are not the same thing. When people see someone doing very well, they usually respond in one or two ways. The first response is admiration, where the individual will say, "How can I learn from this person? How can I improve my own situation?" Admiration pushes people to grow, to learn, and to adapt. The second response is envy, where the individual will say, when will this person screw up? Do they really deserve that position? People that are driven by ambitions focus on improving themselves, while people that are driven by envy focuses on finding flaws in others. That's why some coworkers barely acknowledge your accomplishments, but become fascinated by your failures. They weren't paying attention because they respected your growth. They were just waiting for evidence that your success wasn't as solid as it appeared. One of the most important things to understand about the workplace is that not everyone benefits from your success. The key to succeeding in the workplace without creating unnecessary enemies is to make your success an asset rather than a threat. You want to work hard, produce results, and continue improving, but avoid making others feel inferior or replaceable. You want to share knowledge, help coworkers when appropriate, and give credit when it's due. People are more likely to support your success when they feel included rather than overshadowed. Now, this doesn't mean that you should hold yourself back. The goal is to succeed in a way that creates value for others rather than making them feel threatened. When your success helps the team move forward, you're more likely to build allies instead of rivals. Keep in mind, the most successful person in the workplace doesn't just deliver results. They create value while maintaining strong relationships along the way.